Good morning, everybody. Morning. Sorry. Welcome to this year's Personnel Committee. We've got a few. Have we got any new members? New? Would you like any introduction? Do you think you know anybody? Would you like some introductions? Do you want just the officers, or do you know all the councillors as well? Okay, if the officers could just introduce themselves, that'd be lovely. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So, do we have any apologies, please?
We've got apologies from Councillor Bonser, Councillor Potter and Liz Moore.
Thank you. Late items to be introduced by the Chair. I don't have any declarations of interest, please. No. Item 4, minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of April. I know we were a bit short on the ground on that day. Was anybody here to be able to move them? No, I think it was just me. Yes, that was a true representation. I'll move those minutes. Item 5 is the apprenticeship project update. I believe that will be Tanya. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Committee. This is a regular paper that I bring to committee meetings to give an update on the progress of our apprenticeship programme. The paper normally consists of an update on the apprenticeship team's current priorities, and also the update of the levy payments. And on this occasion, there is also an update on the committee's recommendation to the Strategic Director regarding the increase of the apprenticeship salary. So the recommendations would be to note the items in the paper, and the paper's purpose is to keep the committee aware of the apprenticeship team's work activity. So moving on to the supporting information, 4 point, the current priorities. The apprenticeship team are working very closely with managers and service areas and have sent out apprenticeship training packages, which are it informs managers of what apprenticeships are available in their area of expertise, specialisms, to support their colleagues for their workforce development and personal development. So we sent those out as a team in just before Easter. And we've had a lot of expressions of interest, I would say, a lot of expressions of interest. But the next step we want to do is go to departmental management team meetings to further explain the opportunities that are available to the teams so that they can cascade that down to their relevant areas. So that's where we're going with the apprenticeship routes and training packages. 4.1.2, I just wanted to give you an idea of the partnership working that the team is doing within internal stakeholders and also within the community. So we have representation on the Employment Education and Training Board, and where we are supporting care leavers into to the workplace and other opportunities, maybe a training opportunity. We are working with one individual at the moment, hoping to support them into an apprenticeship. So we're actively working with the EAT board. We've also got an event, an EAT event that we are attending on the 14th of July to again raise awareness. We have representation on the Equality, Diversity, Inclusion Board as well. Again, this is to raise awareness for all colleagues within the organisation and for the community groups as well, to cascade the information out to community groups. So we are active members of that board as well. We have representation on the YES partnership, strategic and operational groups. This is the Youth Employment Scheme, and we did attend an event on June the 9th, which was very well received. We had some good attendance at that event. As you well know, we also work very closely with our Derby Adult Learning Service, and we also work with the Employment Hub to support people into the workplace and into apprenticeships. We also work very closely with the Economic Growth team, and that's around our levy transfers. That's where we transfer our 25% allowance to outside organisations. We work very closely there, and we're also an active member of the East Midlands Apprenticeship Ambassador Network. And I will be chairing the D2N2 Public Sector Compact Group tomorrow morning. Again, apprenticeships in the public sector, where are we now? So we'll be chairing that tomorrow morning, and that's a cross-section of the 4 councils, and also a lot of NHS representation there and local training providers. So that's a very good networking opportunity to raise our profile. The business admin Trailblazer group, unfortunately the scheduled meeting was cancelled, and this was due to further work that was required by the Institute of the chair for the Trailblazer group. So that work is being undertaken at the moment, and I will bring further details. We haven't got a planned meeting currently. That will take place once the work has been completed, and I will bring future updates when I have them for that one. Good news, Leadership and Management Programme. We sent out some comms recently, and again, a lot of expressions of interest. And at the moment, we've got 12 colleagues going through the induction process to start between levels 5 and 7 in September. We've also got 9 colleagues wanting to start on the level 3 team lead programme in September as well. So we're processing those as we speak. Just wanted to give you a flavour as well about where we're working with the social care teams. Currently we have 11 colleagues on social work apprenticeships. That's with Nottingham Trent University. The reason we have gone to Nottingham Trent, there's only 2 universities in our area that deliver that social work, the social work apprenticeship, because it is a registered apprenticeship. So the training providers do have to go through quite a rigorous process to enable them to deliver that programme. And Nottingham Trent is the nearest university to us that deliver it. So that's the reason we use that training provider. What normally happens is the adults and children's workforce development teams will promote the next cohort, which will be January 2023. They promote that over the summer, and then an expression of interest exercise will take place, and we will then establish how many can go on programme next January. So, as I say, we've got 3 cohorts already in place, and just as a sideline, we have won Apprentice of the Year once with one of our apprentices on that one cohort, and we were nominated this year, near miss this year, but we were, it was very positive that we were nominated again this year. So 4.2, this was where the committee recommended an increase on the apprenticeship salary to put it in line with the national minimum wage for age, because as we know at the moment, we pay the apprenticeship salary. So I've written a paper which is sat with the strategic director at the moment, which he is considering those options and the impact on the organisation, and I will be updating the committee once I have a decision from the strategic director there. 4.3 is the usual. This is the levy payments, and this identifies what payments have been paid into the levy fund to date from the beginning of the levy, which was April 2017. So at the moment we have put in just over 3.5 million. into the levy. We have drawn down 1.7 million for internal apprenticeship opportunities, and we've also transferred just over 50,000 to outside organisations. And between April 21 and May 22, unfortunately, we did experience expired funds of 86,500, but in the last 9 months, we've only experienced that expiration of funds once. So that's very positive. So there's a full breakdown of the levy payments in Appendix 1, and that identifies the training providers that we're currently using, and it also identifies the number on roll with each training provider there. Just as an added, that isn't in the paper, but I thought you would be interested, I met with a colleague from Department of Education this week. We have meetings on a quarterly basis, and we discuss how the programme's going. And as part of that, we always get our widening participation stats. So she gave us the stats for August 2021 to April 2022, which were quite encouraging stats. So registered, this is a percentage of all of our apprenticeship starts. So this is new starts and existing colleagues. So registered disability, including learning difficulties, we've got 15.5% of our starts. 16 to 24-year-olds is 35.5%. Disadvantaged backgrounds is 27.4%. BAME community is 19.7%, and females into STEM is 14.3%. So although I hadn't written that in the paper, I thought you'd be very interested in those stats, because it just does show how well we are doing with the widening of participation with our apprentices. So I thought that would be something for you to note. I can give you those percentages as well. I'll send you through to you. Okay. So thank you very much for allowing me to present the paper this morning. And do you have any questions?
Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Chair. It's not really a question, it's just to say how pleased I am with the fact that we're involving our care leavers in the apprenticeship programme, which sounds like a double bonus for me for the council, and I think we should attempt to even expand that. It's really, really good. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Skelton.
Oh, thanks. Was just wanting to ask, you gave the percentages obviously for widening participation for disadvantaged groups. Those are the current percentages. Are they all sort of improvements on the previous year, or?
They are improvements on the previous year. One, we didn't have the starts the previous year down to the pandemic, and also, yes, we have been doing work in the community, so they are improvements on the previous year's stats. Yes.
I think you're done. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Tam. So item 6, it's another to note report, attendance management quarter 4. Thank you. Del.
Thank you. Thank you, committee, allowing me to present the quarter 4 figures for you today as part of a standard report that we produce in HR for Personnel Committee. This report covers the quarter 4 performance and also the end of year figures for the year 21/22. So you'll see at 2.1 that we are performing as quarter 4 3.67 days lost for each full-time equivalent, against a target of 2.12 days. Now, this showed a comparable amount of FTE days as per the quarter 3. At 2.2, you'll see, as part of that recommendation, that the overall council target was 8.5 days, but with the removal of COVID from our end-of-year performance, we would have come in at 10.75 FTE days lost. So it's kind of, I'll explain further as we go through the report, the impact of COVID that we've had over this last year and how that's affected the directorates. So At 4.1, we go over the top 3 reasons for absence in quarter 4. These have been static and moved in ranking throughout the last year. You'll see that we have stress anxiety at 18.30%. Now that is a decrease on quarter 3 and it was also position 1 in the ranking last quarter. COVID-19 related illnesses saw an increase of 2.23% on the quarter 3 position 2, which was an expected position as detailed within the report following UK public sector employers' guidance that we were likely to see around 10 to 25% reported absence. So when we were coming in at 16.05%, this still put us within the expected range of COVID-19 related absence for the council. We were then at position 2 with that ranking still as per quarter 3. Musculoskeletal, 12.28%, saw a decrease again on the quarter 3 position, so that was a positive move there. So the top 3 reasons of absence in quarter 4, whilst remain the same, has been the COVID has been the only absence reason to show an increase on the data from quarter 3. Which, as I state, this is something we forecasted in previous reports to Personnel Committee, and the impact has come out and shown within the data. You'll see a breakdown table there of directorates, which kind of shows you over each quarter over the last year how each of the directorates have performed. You'll see that there's FTE days, quarter 4 end of year position for each directorate, and you'll then see as part of that table that there is an overall year end, including COVID-19 for the council, of 12.81 days, which is an FTE again per employee. Again, reminding ourselves that if we didn't have COVID over the last year, it would have been an overall year-end forecast of 10.75, which would have had a significant impact over the last year and previous years. So all directorates have reported an FTE day loss greater than their year-end target, which was to be expected as it has been that challenging period. So throughout 2021-22, we have informed of the impact of COVID absence rates for each quarter, and are still forecasting that COVID will be having an impact even though we're moving out of and into a more normal way of dealing with the pandemic as part of a respiratory disease. So moving on from that, the COVID regulations, we've just quoted those within the report to show you the current guidance as per the date of the report, and the council has seen sickness absence rates reduce year on year over 2018-19 up until 2020-21, which was a very encouraging trend prior to the pandemic. And whilst absence rates have seen an increase in 21-22, the increase needs to be seen in the context of both the direct and indirect impact of the continuing pandemic. Whilst it remains uncertain moving forward in terms of severity of COVID in the year ahead, it's anticipated, and we have seen in the council, that COVID-related cases are declining. As noted at the last Personnel Committee, we are doing a turning the curve report, which is going to show and set departmental targets throughout the next 3 years and how they're to be reported to service directors. We constantly have in place the monitoring of service action plans within services that are held with heads of service and directors, where we place specific actions to deal with attendance within their directorate and workforce areas, and we have some bite-sized coaching presentations that the HRAs do on a one-on-one and on a small team basis for helping managers manage attendance, which can be very difficult as part of their day-to-day work. On 4.2, we've highlighted again some of the positive approach that we have to our occupational health and well-being. We continue to benchmark ourselves to get against the industry, and we perform above that. We have management reports that are issued within 48 hours of the appointment attended, and 100% performance is currently being achieved. We are focusing now on annual health surveillance, driver assessments within Street Pride, and aiming to achieve 100% completion by the end of February 2023. We've launched the Employee Assistance mobile app, which I'm sure you've seen in your communications, and that is a real positive in terms of staff, their well-being and their support, to be able to get through a mobile phone and through a device support on the go, from home or wherever they need it. So we're reviewing our health and wellbeing strategy along with this, and we'll be providing information at the September Personnel Committee. And we do continue to focus on health and well-being of our colleagues, and helping to try and drive and bring down attendance across the council. What isn't included in the report is that we are currently consulting with the trade unions on an amended managing attendance policy, which hopefully following that consultation we will also be bringing to the next Personnel Committee for you to have a look at, in terms of how we are looking at managing some of these cases to try and keep attendance at its minimum levels. So, in summary, this report is to note the Council's performance for Q4 as per recommendation 2.1, to note at 2.2 the impact of COVID on the Council's end-of-year target, and to note that if COVID was removed, our performance would be 10.75 FTE days lost against a target of 8.5 days. And as per recommendation 2.3, we will be bringing a report back to the committee in September on our occupational health approach, that supportive approach to colleagues, along with health and wellbeing strategy, and also a revised managing attendance policy for the council. That's the end of my overview. Have you got any questions?
I've got a couple, but I haven't used this before, so
No, that's okay.
Is that correct? Yeah. Yeah, I'm really interested in the COVID, and just want to know if you've got any long-term COVID cases that have been reported, because that's going to continue to pull those COVID stats down.
Yes. We've I had a quick look this morning. The figures at the end of May were showing that we only had 4 long COVID cases within the council, which is very good in terms of managing that moving forward. Yeah. We do have at the minute a revised approach to dealing with COVID, as COVID is currently not included within the triggers of the council at this moment in time. As we're moving through to a more normal way of working, we've created a paper that's being considered, which will look at putting COVID back into triggers, as it's now a respiratory illness moving forward.
Just another couple, if that's okay, sorry. And the other one was the mobile app, which is fantastic. Are you going to collect data on that in terms of how many people log in and use it?
Yes,
so you'll be able to produce some information.
We will, and Carl will be reporting on that as the Occupational Health Manager in his report. We do have details of the number of people that log in, and he'll also be able to show you some of the services that he provides and the kind of take-up that we have throughout the council for the EAP service that we have. It's an excellent tool that we've got now in place for staff.
Brilliant. And the final one is, do you do annual staff surveys in terms of how people feel about working at the council at the moment?
We are just embarking on taking forward a people strategy, which so we're doing some focus group work at the moment out in the wider workforce, and that will include putting in place some more development opportunities for, taking forward some of the data capturing that you've just mentioned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any question? Councillor Cott?
Thank you, Chair. Well, I look forward to seeing the new attendance management strategy, which I hope will improve things somewhat. I would regard 10.75 against a target of 8, and a target of 8 I would suggest is not comparable with outside industries as still being far too high. That's nearly 11, 10 points, at nearly 11 days lost, but that's putting a real strain on other members that are, other employees that are working. So I hope we can see some improvement with the new strategy. That would be my wish. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Just looking at 4.1 and stress and anxiety being the top reason for absence. There's obviously, because that's the top one, you're probably doing quite a lot of work focusing on that to work to bring it down. So it's also one that we can perhaps do more preventative work to try and support members of staff and bring that down. So I wonder if you could just perhaps talk about some of the support that's available for members of staff to try and reduce the absence for stress and anxiety.
Yeah. One of the actions as part of any of the action plans out in the service where stress is showing as out there with members of staff, we do have as part of those action plans coaching sessions for managers to discuss how to have a conversation with their staff. They will fill in a wellbeing support plan with their staff member to kind of encourage that conversation, to get them talking, to understand what the stress of the cause of the stress are. We do find that the majority of stress cases that we have, we do categorise them as part of the Good Shape service that we have in place. So we can see that the majority of stress is around personal stress. It's not particularly work-related stress that is the issue. So it's around supporting those colleagues through, you know, referring them to occupational health. The EAP service that will be as part of the next report will show you some of the fact that an employee can have up to 8 sessions, which is better than the NHS service provide in terms of that personal counselling, which so an employee can ring and trigger that for themselves through the EAP service and get support in that way, along with the regular conversations that they have with the manager. And we're encouraging staff to talk to their managers if they have any kind of stress or support needs, because the manager's the one there that gets that notification first, should be seeing the indicators on the run up to somebody who then has an absence on stress, and trying to support them as part of then coming back to work and a kind of supportive approach to their return to work, any phasing, reviewing the workloads, moving forward. So we do the monitoring across the organisation on a quarterly basis for each directorate, down to each of those levels of stress, and then targeted work with those managers in terms of dealing with those colleagues and employees in a supportive manner.
Yeah, could I just ask, the report's very good and concise. Is there, this is me being rather obtuse, it won't all be bona fide. There's always an element of people in any employment in large organisations where they have annual sick leave and not sick. Do you have anything in place to try and filter that out and look for signs of that, to deal with it?
We have to treat all cases of absence as genuine, but what we are doing as part of, what we did as part of the last couple of years, we introduced into guidance for managers that as part of informal monitoring, that we look at when somebody hasn't got a disability or an absence related to equality, that we set a 0 target as part of that monitoring. So you'll see as part of the consultations, as part of the next attendance management policy we bring, some key changes to the policy in terms of how we're hoping to manage and take it forward to try and get underneath anyone that may have that approach to their attendance.
And just following on from that, I've raised at the pre-meet about the COVID-19 cases, that are they being monitored, that somebody hasn't had COVID-19 26 times in a year and things like that. And I've been assured that it is all being monitored. The only other question that I would raise is, at what point will the papers be not included, COVID-19, without and with COVID-19, when will they be amalgamated, or will that ever happen even, or is this the way going forward?
I think whilst ever we have at the moment for this next quarter the potential that we are not including COVID within the triggers, it will be covered in the next papers quarter. There will be potentially, hopefully, a change of position in how we're dealing with COVID. There is a paper at the moment being considered, and once that paper has gone through, it may be then that we move to removing COVID from the figures, unless it comes out as one of the top 3 absence reasons.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? So I'll move recommendation 2.1 to 2.3. Everybody happy? Okay, thank you very much, everybody. The next meeting is September the 15th. Thank you all.